Hey guys, so today I am doing a review of the arcs that I read in February. I read three, and that was Watcher in the Woods by Kelly Armstrong, A Version of the Truth by B.P. Walter, and Say You're Sorry by Karen Rose. I will review them in that order, tell you what I liked and disliked, and give them a star rating. So let's get into it. So the first one that I think I read within like the first couple days of February, and that was A Watcher in the Woods by Kelly Armstrong. I think I made a mistake by not reading the first three in this series. It is in the Casey Duncan series, and Casey Duncan is a detective or inspector, I think she's a detective, in a little town in the north that is kind of a town for like criminals that are seeking refuge or victims that are seeking refuge. So it's a little tiny town full of people who are very protective of each other. Casey has gone through a lot over the just little over a year that she's lived there. She's fallen in love. She's solved a whole bunch of cases, as in the first three books, but I don't know what those are. But then suddenly this stranger shows up, and it's a marshal, and he's demanding one of the residents to come with him to be arrested. And Casey and the rest of the town is very protective and is trying to figure out like, okay, well, why does he want this resident? Like, what's going on? But then the next day, the marshal is found dead. And Casey and her boyfriend, who is the sheriff of this little town, kind of have to figure out who killed the marshal, why would they do that, who has motive, who did it, why is it happening, what's going on, is her sister involved? And it was just okay. I do think that I did a disservice to myself by not reading the first three books first, because there were a lot of things that I was like, okay, this is obviously picking up from the last book, and I don't know what happened in the last book. Obviously, she has had feelings for this main character, and I did not know the buildup of their relationship, so I really didn't understand like the mannerisms of which, or the like names that they called each other or the way they acted around each other. I didn't really understand that, but I think it's just because I didn't read the first three books. But regardless, what I didn't like was that the writing was very choppy. It was very all over the place, and a lot of it just seemed kind of unnecessary. Like there was a lot of just extra fluff kind of thrown in, and I really didn't like that. I felt like the book could probably be about half the size it was and just be a novella, and it would have been way better. And then what I did like was, I did really like the character of Casey. I could tell that she had gone through a lot of character growth throughout this series, even though I have not read the first three books. I do wish that I had known kind of what character growth had kind of happened, because I do wish I would have understood that a little bit better going into this, but I really did like her, and like her relationship with the sheriff was really cute, and I liked that a lot. But other than that, this book was just kind of underwhelming for me. I gave it a 2-star. I didn't really enjoy it that much, but I do think that I'm going to give the first three in this series a try, and then maybe reread it with a fresh set of eyes to see if like maybe once I know some of the context clues, maybe I'll like it a little bit better. The next one was A Version of the Truth by B.P. Walter, and this book is about a girl named Julianne, or a woman named Julianne, who her and her husband have kind of grown a little distant, but he works all the time and she's busy as well, and they have a teenage son who is about to go off to college, I think. While he's at home, he kind of finds this disturbing file on their like family server that's his dad's, and it's full of these weird files, and he shows his mom, and Julianne just does not quite know what to think, because she thinks that her husband would never do anything like that. Like, he was so straight-laced and he was perfect, and he was that like go get him guy in college. That's the guy that she fell in love with, who is this mystery man that has like all these files on all these women on the server at their house. Then travel back to her husband's college days, and we also have the narrative of Holly, who went to college with the husband and Julianne, but she had fallen for the husband before Julianne did. So she kind of sees herself as like this jilted lover, even though she never really had a chance with him. And the two stories just kind of like go back and forth, and you see Holly slowly develop into that friend group and change and morph to what she thinks the husband, like the guy, would want. But then you see Julianne kind of backwards, where you see her as his wife and then slowly figuring out their whole relationship in reverse. So the book kind of ends at the middle, and I really enjoyed it. It was super thrilling and really just kind of stressful at times. The thing I liked the best was the plot. The plot was fantastic. It was very fast-paced, but then it had these parts where you really had to dig in and try and figure out, okay, like what significance does this have? What does this play a factor? Like, does this play a factor later on? And I really enjoyed that. And I really enjoyed the friend group, even though they were the biggest bunch of dislikable people. But I don't know, just them as a friend group seemed very real and very organic. But they also seemed like that stereotypical, like, oh, I'm the preppy rich friend group that like they have everything in their lives just handed to them. And those are the kind of friend groups that you like love to hate. And I loved to hate them. The things that I did not like were the excessive amount of rape, of drug use, of just overall like disregard for human emotion. That I really did not like. If that kind of stuff is unsettling for you, then definitely do not read this book. It is way over the top. But if you can get through that kind of stuff, like if it doesn't bother you, if you read books like this all the time that are like those really domestic thrillers, then you will enjoy this book. But I do have to put that out there that like there is some pretty graphic subjects mentioned. But overall, this book was fantastic. I believe I gave it a 4-star, and I really enjoyed it. And the last one was Say You're Sorry by Karen Rose, and this book is about Daisy, who she is in like an AA type group, and she also has, I think, an anxiety dog. It's a little tiny dog named Brutus, like in Legally Blonde, which I love. But one day when she's going back to the diner with one of her friends after one of their meetings, she gets attacked by a man with a stocking over his face, and she fights and kicks and somehow succeeds to get out of his grasp. But while she's fighting, she does grab the necklace off of his throat and kind of like rip it off of him, and she doesn't realize that she does it. But when she calms down and shows her friend, it's a locket that actually has a pretty significant meaning to a religious cult. When she reports the attack, her friend is the detective that's going to be like investigating, and one of his childhood friends actually has that exact same like symbol tattooed on his chest. So he brings in his friend, who is, I think, like an FBI agent, to figure out like, how is this connected? What's going on? Why does this guy have a relic of your religious cult that you escaped from when you were a child? And it's pretty much about like Gideon, who is the FBI agent, trying to figure out like, okay, what's going on? Why does this religious cult keep popping up out of nowhere? Like, how is this all connected? Until Daisy comes into his life because of this investigation, and they kind of start a little bit of a steamy romance. I did not like this book. The religious cult aspect was just way too much, and then the romance I felt like was really forced, and I just was not thrilled at all during this book. I don't know, I was just very underwhelmed. The characters were not super dimensional. Like one of them is a lesbian, and I think that's about the most interesting thing about her. But I don't know, like these characters are just very bland, except for Gideon. But I think that's the point. I think he's supposed to be dark and brooding and interesting. I don't know, I wasn't super impressed. I'm trying to think of what I did like, and honestly, I don't think I liked anything. I just was not, I don't know. This book was not for me. I guess the killer was the best part because he was just so neurotic. He also had kind of a dark, gritty side to him, but then he also owned a dog. It was just like, okay. I don't know. There was just a lot going on in this book. If you like thrillers that have a romance in them, then by all means try this book. But I don't, apparently. Like, I don't know. I do, though, because I like the girl in 6E. I don't know. This book just did not live up to, like, that kind of hype. So anyway, those are all 3 of the arcs that I read in February. 2 2-stars and 1 4-star. Wasn't a stellar month for arcs, not like January. January was fantastic. Hopefully March will be a lot better, especially because A Dangerous Collaboration by Deanna Rayburn is one that I have to review, but I also got the finished hardback from Berkeley Publishing as well, and I'm so excited. I think that's actually going to be my next read, so hopefully I can get that done soon and give you all a review in one of my reading vlogs. Please do not forget to like me or follow me on Instagram and Twitter. And I actually do have my Goodreads link down in the description because I want you all to engage with me on there as well. And if you want to see more updates about what I'm reading, that's where I normally do it. But yeah, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you all next time. Bye!